and social influence, sponsored by the Medieval Folklore section to plug us. So to start us off, we have Sherman, who is currently a senior at the University of Findlay in Findlay, Ohio, and is presently majoring in English literature with a general writing emphasis and graduating in the spring of 2012. He's the current president of the Writers Club, the Student Tutor Association, and an active member of the Mortar Board and Aristos Eclectos? Yeah. Both honor societies. He's employed as a writing tutor at the Academic Support Center and hopes to attend graduate school in the field of English with an emphasis on folklore starting next fall. He would like to have a PhD. So he will be leading us off with In the Beginning, Deciphering Witchcraft and Its Influential Power in the Renaissance.
Thank you. All right. I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. I'm Derek, as she said, so I'm going to kind of get us started. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn in cauldron bubble. This happens to be one of the most famous lines that William Shakespeare has ever written. And it really gets to the heart of the social dimensions of witchcraft during the medieval and Renaissance time period, I feel. Witchcraft has existed for a very long time, since pretty much the ascent of civilization. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to pretty much talk about witchcraft from the ascent of civilization through the Renaissance time period. It's a lot of time to cover, so I'm just going to kind of give you general background information, then within the discussion you can ask me further questions. Alright, so this is my presentation outline. I'm going to do an introduction to witchcraft, the literature and its influences in witch lore, the final conclusions about the Renaissance, and then we're going to do a little segue into the Salem witch trials with Megan. Alright, so I have a question for you. When you think of a witch, what comes to mind? For anybody.
Scary. Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz.
Green, big nose, pointy hat.
Okay. So whenever we think of a witch, we come up with kind of images like this. And there's the green witch. Then we have the witch and the blue. And then, of course, the laugh. So, however, witchcraft was not always necessarily seen in this light. Witchcraft was said to have been, it descended from goddesses' cults in the ancient times, simply for the fact that ancient goddesses held a lot of power within the society back then. This is more towards a polytheistic society. And these women were actually called the wise women. They had simple duties, such as they were the family therapists, they took away evil spirits, they were fertility people, they helped give birth, so anything that you needed, pretty much like a doctor, but they were called the wise women. And such goddess cults included the Isis, Asherah, and the Sumerian goddess Inanna. So those are just a little bit of goddess cults that had existed. However, when we get to polytheistic religions, going back with this, and their views on witchcraft, we have Jason and the Golden Fleece, and then we have the Odyssey, which I feel are two strong texts that have witchcraft as a big influence within them. And I give a couple polytheistic societies that had multiple gods and goddesses. So Egypt, Greece, Italy, and Babylon. So within Jason and the Golden Fleece, we have Medea. Now, it can be argued that she has a negative connotation when it comes to a witch. However, within Jason and the Golden Fleece, I feel that without Medea's help, Jason really couldn't have accomplished what he did by getting the Golden Fleece. So really, within this time period and within this tale section of Jason and the Golden Fleece, I really feel that Medea is pretty much posited as a positive witch, which is good for that time period, and of course it goes back to the polytheistic society. And then we have the Odyssey with Circe. Again, it can go either way. She does have those magical witch powers. She is able to turn sailors into pigs with just the tap of a wand. So you have that. However, when we come to the monotheistic societies, specifically Christianity and Judaism, we have the Bible stance on witchcraft. There are two main stances that the Bible has on witchcraft. First one is, there shall not be found among you anyone who uses divination when practices witchcraft or a sorcerer. So that speaks pretty much that the Bible says, witchcraft should not exist within that, and if it does, it should be abolished. And then we have the Bible passage number 2. It's thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. And I really find that that's a strong element within the Bible, because it pretty much says exactly what the other one said was, you shouldn't suffer a witch. So pretty much, let's just get rid of them altogether. However, there is kind of a, what do I want to say, an evolution within the Bible that kind of takes witchcraft in a different light. It's within 1 Samuel 28:7. Saul then said to his attendants, find me a woman who is a medium, so I may go and inquire of her. There is one in Endor, they said. And within this, Saul seeks the guidance of the witch of Endor. And when he is seeking the guidance of her, he asked her to have a seance for her. A seance to bring up the prophet Samuel. So she does the seance, brings up the prophet Samuel, and Samuel has nothing but bad news for Saul, and Saul ends up dying within a battle with the Philistines. I thought it was a little ironic for the simple fact that if you're going to abolish witchcraft, then why seek the guidance of witches within that? And then a big religious stance was taken against witchcraft, where there was a pivotal stance by Pope Innocent VIII in 1484, where he recited his bull against witchcraft. And that had a very big effect on the society at that time. And it reads, it has recently come to our attention, now without bitter sorrow, that many persons of both sexes, unmindful of their own salvation and straying from the Catholic faith, have abandoned themselves to devils, and by their accursed charms and crafts, enormities and horrid offenses, have slain unborn infants and the offspring of cattle, have blasted the produce of earth. These wretches furthermore afflict and torment men and women with terrible and piteous pains. Over and above this, they blasphemously renounce the faith which is theirs by the sacrament of baptism, and do not shrink from committing and perpetrating the foulest abominations and filthiest excesses. So within that, the Pope Innocent VIII, giving that and reciting that, it pretty much says witchcraft should be abolished within the city-states of the Catholic faith. And then we come to the most famous witchcraft hunter's Bible, the Malleus Maleficarum. It is said that the Malleus Maleficarum was based off of the bull by Pope Innocent VIII, and that is actually included within the Malleus Maleficarum. And the Malleus is written by Jacob Springer and Heinrich Kramer. Both of them were Dominican friars, so you can obviously see the influence that they had. They had the religious influence and wanted to get rid of witchcraft altogether. This text became very influential and ended up becoming the witch hunting Bible. And it was actually said in a documentary that I watched that the Malleus Maleficarum was the second most read book next to the Bible. So obviously with that being said, you can tell the importance that witchcraft had in this society. And shortly after, as I said, it became known as the Witch Hunter's Bible. And the book itself is divided into 3 sections. The first section is to provide evidence that witchcraft does exist within this society and within the medieval and Renaissance time period. And this book is actually divided into 3 separate sections itself. It has the sorceress, the demon, and the permission of God. So within that section, you have just those 3 ideologies being expressed within that section. Then we come to section 2. This treats the actual practices of sorceresses, and itself is divided into 2 parts. Subsection 1 deals with the sorceress's actions, and subsection 2 provides methods of counteracting the sorceress's actions. So obviously within that, you can see, Jacob Springer and Heinrich Kramer were trying to prevent witchcraft from happening, but if it was inflicted within the person, they have methods to counteract that. And then section 3, it is said to be based entirely off of the Directorium Inquisitorium, which is the guidebook for inquisitors, and Heinrich Kramer himself was an inquisitor during that time period, so the influence from that can be seen within this third section, and it is a discussion of the judicial method of investigating and counteracting witchcraft. And I have a little video here that I think is very influential and pretty much tells everybody what the role that Heinrich Kramer had in this. So I'm going to show this to you real quick. And we have sound, so you should be able to hear it.
The investigation team, the misleading bull reveals a striking possibility that the Malleus Maleficarum's success had nothing to do with certified papal approval, but everything to do with the master manipulator, Heinrich Kramer, a man obsessed with silencing his critics and changing forever the way the world saw witches, an evil that must be stopped. 1484, Ravensburg, Germany. A hailstorm has ravaged the region. The suspected cause? Witchcraft. In court, 8 women face a delegation of local officials. And one other. Heinrich Kramer. Nearby is the Inquisitor's favored punishment, the strappado. Pulled upwards by their wrists, victims hang, often until their arms dislocate from their sockets. At last, according to Kramer, 2 women confess to acts of demonic sorcery, causing deadly storms. Heinrich Kramer orders the women burned alive. For Kramer, Ravensburg is a great success.
So as you can see,
1480s.
Heinrich Kramer had a big part within this, within the Malleus Maleficarum. So, and then we move on. I want to kind of discuss, how did Heinrich Kramer pretty much determine who was a witch and who was not? Well, I'm pretty sure all of you are familiar with the idea by the ride by night. This is where witches actually boarded their brooms and took off to partake in the Sabbath. I've read a documentary, I've read a couple of sources on this, there have been theories about this, and one theory actually says that the reason this came about was that women were fed hallucinogens, and from this they thought that they could fly. So with that, they got the connotation of characteristic that they could ride by night. And there's obviously a face-to-face pact with the devil during this time period is what they thought. So they would pretty much sell their soul to the devil. There was a formal repudiation of Christianity, obviously with making a pact with the devil. The secret nocturnal meeting, as I described it, is the Sabbath. Desecration of the Eucharist and the crucifix and the orgy. It is said that they partake in orgies when they go to the Sabbath. They had sex with the devil and with each other. Sacrificial infanticide, if I can say that correctly. And then obviously cannibalism. Those were all characteristics that described witchcraft during that time period. So how did they tell someone was a witch? Well, pretty much complete proof was needed, but complete proof was not necessarily always attained. So pretty much they had to have testimony with one person and another person. And then as a result, it was necessary to form a complete proof through combining confession with another indication, such as testimony by one witness. The result was tremendous pressure for confession at all costs, as well as pressure for the relaxation of standards for witnesses and other sources of lesser evidence. So pretty much a confession was needed, and in order to gain confession, they used torture within the third section of the Malleus Maleficarum. I had a video here that explained the torture methods that were going on, but I'm not going to show that simply for time's sake. But they had awful torture methods. They had a helmet that was placed on you and pretty much crush your skull. They had thumbs. They had your hands tied in a little locket that would pretty much break your hands. And as you saw in the other video, they had the strappado.